we go. Okay. So, Danny, first tell me, so can you first tell me, what do you actually do at Kroger?
Okay. So right now my job is I do assortment. So what that is I am looking at innovation from companies. They come in to meet with me at different times throughout the year to present their new items. And so basically my job is to make the decisions of what we're going to bring into the set. I put everything on a spreadsheet. So my total portfolio sales for about a year is about 2.5 billion. So I have like isotonics, which is Gatorade, Powerade, Body Armor. Also included in there for Kroger is Bang Energy, Rain, and then we also have a new one called A-Shock. I also have ready to drink tea, mixers, water, energy drinks, bulk water, enhanced water, sparkling water, and then we get into the natural segment. So I have natural food energy drinks, which is like guayaki, natural tea, natural sparkling water, natural enhanced water, plant-based water, and then natural foods water. So I work off what's called a compass calendar. So compass is how the stores reset in each category. So say we're looking at sparkling water, we do an update, and then we do an NII, which is basically a swap for a new flavor, or very small. So an NII is usually an hour per store where they can just pull and plug items. It's not a complete overhaul. Now the updates are like 8 hours. And so for sparkling, I mean, for those meetings, it's usually 3 days from 8 to 5, 25-minute increments all day. So we're just sampling product, learning about their promotional calendar, the funding they're going to put behind it. I don't know if you've seen AHA from Coke.
Yeah.
That's their new sparkling water. So they did have Dasani, and they completely got rid of that to bring in AHA to compete with Bubbly from Pepsi. So Bubbly is huge at Kroger. So that's basically my job in a nutshell. But prior to all of that, I work with 8451. So I don't know if you shop at Kroger, but anytime that somebody shops at Kroger and they scan their Plus card, all that gets loaded into 8451's database. So I have a team that I sit with, and we go through what's called shelf review. So basically they put the planogram up on the screen for, I'm just going to use sparkling water again, and it highlights everything that's potential for delete. So like it has to be in the set for 26 weeks. It doesn't have a repeat rate. And basically the sales are just down on it. And sometimes they'll do a manufacturer delete. So like Coke deleted Dasani to bring in AHA. So it's a lot of data prior to those meetings to even see how much space that we have. And then we also do what's called CCO. So we'll meet with the big suppliers, and basically they lay out their promotional calendar for the year to get shelf space. So I do assortment, and I work with a team of category managers who manage their promotional activity. So I just kind of sit in those meetings and listen to what they're presenting to them to keep in mind when we have the new item appointments. And then we also have our Kroger brand stuff. So we have Simple Truth Organic, we have Private Selection, and Kroger. So I participate, actually I have one today for mixers, but we take a national brand item and we do what we call cuttings, and we basically flavor, compare, and taste test against national brand, but it's a blind taste test. So we go through and do all of that blind taste testing, and at the end they reveal to us, okay, this is the national product, this is what we're presenting for the Kroger brand product, and then how they compare. So that's really cool, because I get to see Kroger brand products when they are first being brought into innovation to the end when they go on the shelf.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's really cool.
It's really cool. And then they test it amongst the associates too. So like after we sign off on it, they'll send out an invite to a couple hundred to go in and do the blind taste testing that we did. And they leave their notes that we have to go through about different tweaks that they think we should make, if any.
So do you do this for a specific region, or do you actually do it for nationwide?
Nationwide.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
so when you work with the data with 8451, are you the one that analyzes the data, or you have your team that analyzes the data and they provide you with the report?
So they do the pre-work first, they analyze the data, and then they present it to me. And then I usually develop questions around like,
Yep.
So a new thing is caffeinated sparkling water. We don't have a whole lot of that. So they can look at rest of market data and kind of pull in that information for me. So when they present something, I basically draw questions from what they presented, and then we pull that together into the total bucket.
So, given that, the diversity of the work that you have, which is the thing I really love.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that there are way too many days that you get really bored. It seems that you have a lot of diversity, and then the products themselves, they change so often, they evolve, that probably the day is not the same every single day.
Right.
So what is your like favorite part of the work you do these days? Like, what's the work that you feel like the time is passing really fast because you really enjoy what you're doing? What is that thing?
So my favorite is at the end of all of the decision making, depending on all the categories, but so sparkling water is something that's huge. And I would say my favorite is after we meet with all the suppliers, we go through all the data, we test the products. We work with a company called PL Marketing. So I have a team there that writes the planograms and what the shelf is going to look like. And when the updates are finalized, they have a mock Kroger store in their building where they take all of our decisions and put them on the shelf for us to look at before it gets implemented. And I would say that's my favorite because you get to see everything put together on the shelf. And then you present it to like my leadership team. This is why we're doing it. This is the projections, and basically showing your plan that you've worked on for, it's like a 32-week process usually from when you start to when you end. So like go ahead.
So you would basically say that when you see the outcome, the tangible outcome of all the work your team and you did, when you see it coming to life, that's your favorite moment?
Yes. Yep.
That makes all the hard work worth it?
All those meetings, yeah.
Now, since you have this mock-up store, so when you see it, how often does it happen that what you guys create in your mock-up store, that in almost identical way, you then see it coming to life in a Kroger store? Does it happen very often?
That where it's identical? So our sets for, I'm just going to use sparkling water as an example so it stays fluent. The mock store has a set planogram that's 20 feet. All of our stores aren't going to have the capacity to fit that. Some will be larger, some will be smaller. So we write what's called a core set, and that's what we put in the mock store. So yes, typically I will see that at 8 o'clock in the morning, but if I went at 8 o'clock at night, the shelves usually, people have shopped it. It doesn't look as pretty, but to see it live in a store early in the morning, it looks really good.
So, since there's a lot of science that goes into, where products go on a given space on the shelf to drive consumers' decisions.
Yep.
So when you go to Kroger to do your shopping, are you like aware of it? Because you are part of it? So you're like, oh, I will not buy this because I know we put it there for this very reason. I'm going to buy this because I'm not going to be influenced by the design. Are you victim of it, or you don't care?
I'm not well, I have a very weird shopping habit to where I have to shop in the order of the store. But there are times where I'll wander down the aisle, and if it's not my category, I don't know the difference, then I'll spend more time looking, trying to figure out what I want. But as far as my set in particular, I usually know what I want to get. So I don't know if you've heard of Topo Chico, but it is the new best thing. It's a Hispanic sparkling water out of Mexico. And I can't wait for that to get on the shelf. Cannot wait.
Okay, well, at least you're excited.
Yes.
And if you are excited, then we are excited. Okay. Let's look for it. Okay, so now, when you said that your favorite moment is, when you see the result of your work in that mock store and you see everything your team has done suddenly coming to life. When did you discover that this is I guess, what I'm trying to ask you is like, the things that you really enjoy, I would call them, okay, that's the moment where you feel that you are in your element,
Mhm.
that you're doing something that you naturally enjoy and you benefit from it. It just doesn't feel like work. It suddenly, feels more like a hobby. Uh, when did you discover that this is the thing that you wanted to do or you actually enjoy doing? Do you remember that moment or?
I do. So the mock store, well, nerves obviously took over the first few times I had to present, but once I got the hang of it, I was more comfortable. Internally, just seeing it, I knew. But so prior to this, I worked on wine, I worked on beer, and then I did soft drinks. And I was like, oh, it doesn't get better than adult beverage. It does, like, because everybody enjoys it. But there I was doing sales planning. So like contracts and like what goes in the ad. And I am a person. I like the data. I love the 8451 science behind it. So I think that's when I knew is when I started to incorporate 8451 more. Can you see me? It says I'm
No,
unstable.
I see.
Okay. Okay. So I think when I started to work with 8451 and seeing customer loyalty and households and how to build those, and you can see the shift of what you're doing turn to positive, that's when I know that, okay, this is it.
So in some way it was the data piece.
Yeah.
Where you could see that, hey, the data actually has a meaning.
Yeah.
It does impact what we do.
Yes.
Yep. So now, so if you look about, if you try to look back in time and you sort of think of the time at NKU. So, there's an 8-year gap between, you at NKU and today where you are. So can you first tell me, how did you get from NKU to here? How was the journey?
It was hard. It was really hard. I started out working for a mortgage company, doing loan processing and a little bit of loan underwriting. And I mean, it was a good start for out of college, but I knew it wasn't long-term for me. So I forget what website it was. It might've been Monster Jobs. I can't remember, but I found PL Marketing, which is the company that helps us write our sets. Yep. And I applied for a job. I did an interview and I didn't hear back for weeks. And I was like, okay, I didn't get a job. And then I reached out, they called me the next day and said, we need you to come in and fill out some paperwork, do your drug test, all of this. And I was like, okay. So I started there, and that would have been January of 2014. And I was there for, I think, 3 months. And I applied to be an analyst, which is basically help writing the planograms. I was an assistant when I first started. And since like my email address there, danni.hornbach@kroger.com, was the same email address I had at PLM. I mean, they're not the same company, but they're so close. Yeah. So I got a call from Kroger, and an assistant on the wine team was having surgery and they needed somebody to come and fill in for 6 weeks to do her job. So Kroger kind of borrowed people from PLM and vice versa. And so I went to Kroger to work for her. And then when she came back, they offered me a job. So I started there, and I was an assistant on the wine team for about 1.5 years before I became a beer category manager. So beer was a lot of fun. There isn't a whole lot of negotiating because of all the legalities for the states. But it was a lot of fun learning about, the different beers, breweries, hops, and all that stuff. The educational piece was awesome. And then I went to soft drinks. So you work with Coke, Pepsi, KDP, those are the big players. And that was more of a regional market. So I had Atlanta, Roundy's, which is Chicago and Wisconsin, Central, which is like Indianapolis, and then Food for Less. So that's more of a big pack store up in Chicago. And I did that for 8 months. And then there was an opportunity to do a switch on the team. So I had done sales planning for almost 4 years, I guess it was. And I've never really done assortment. Like on the beer side, I would work with like Rhinegeist and Mad Tree because I had the Cincinnati market. But to do it from a national scale, I had never done that. And that's something that I always wanted to do. So that's how I got here. I mean, getting out of NKU and trying to find a job was probably the hardest part for me, just because I didn't do internships, which I should have. So tell everybody to do this. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You know, it seems to me that, your journey was a journey of learning. That
Yes.
you sort of, you dived into the world, and luckily, you stayed open to the opportunities that were presented to you.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that NKU sort of prepared you for your journey? And be honest, because we really try to understand, what we can do for our students to prepare them better. Yeah. Even though the environment will be different. So we don't really know what this really means, but given your case, you started as a mortgage underwriter. And from the very beginning, you knew at the time that, hey, this is not really, the job I really want. It was just a stepping stone.
Right.
So did you feel prepared by NKU?
I will say there are 3 classes at NKU that I think, well, I shouldn't even say yes, classes, but also professors. It was you, Dr. Levin. Is he still there?
Oh yeah, of course. He's my big buddy. So yeah, he is here.
You, him, and then McDermott. I don't know if he is still there.
Yeah, he left.
Did he? So I would say your 3 classes are probably the most influential. Every time I walk past Nutella, I don't not think of NKU or you. But I would say those 3 classes gave me a project to focus on, whereas everything else kind of felt like read the textbook and learn the information, take the test. But you guys were more hands-on with like my senior thesis that I had to do. I think his first name was Dean. Was it Dean McDermott?
Yes.
Yeah, in his class, and then yours with the Nutella project. And then Dr. Levin kind of gave me the marketing research background, which is where my love from 8451 comes from, I believe.
Yep. So do you think that it was the project sort of based learning that gave you the opportunity to try different things? And as you were trying them, you eventually discovered, I kind of like working with data, like in Levin's class.
I think the projects made my education better, and it's kind of what I'm doing today. Like from start to finish, everything is a project until it gets to the shelf. Yeah. But I think that's how I learned too, is from start to finish, visually seeing it, all the steps along the way, rather than here it is, and then take the test.
What I'm curious about is, when you said that you started as a mortgage underwriter. Mm-hmm. And then you jump to PR marketing. But to be honest, those are 2 different stories.
Yep.
How did you make the jump? I mean, mortgage underwriter, and then you were looking into PR marketing. So did you know from, since you graduated, did you know that you want to go into that field? So you just...
Yeah, I had always liked... I applied for jobs at Kroger after college, and I never interviewed for one. I interviewed at P&G, was not offered a position, but I knew retail or consumer goods was the route that I wanted to go eventually. Now, as far as the mortgage piece, I just had a friend reach out yesterday asking me questions about it. So that's personal knowledge that I'll have for the rest of my life. So I thought that was it's still good for me today from a personal level. But yeah, I would say consumer retail has always been something that I wanted to do. I looked at Ipsos. So in the beginning, it was still market research. I looked at them. So Kroger's kind of put all of that together in one with this position for assortment.
Yeah. So, it seems to me that, I would say that you are definitely, you look that you enjoy what you're doing. Yeah. So I would even say that, yes, you do live in some way in your element. The work seems to be an important part of your life. Mm-hmm. And my guess is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there are not too many days when you wake up in the morning and you tell yourself, oh my gosh, I have to go to work. Oh. it seems to me that you do find fun at your
Yes.
work.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, when the alarm goes off, I don't want to go. But I mean, getting there and starting, no, there's never where I'm like, "Ugh, again."
yeah. So, which is great. Which is, that's why I love what I do. That I'm trying to accelerate this thing, for my students to help them better understand, who they are and how they can translate it into a career path, so they actually enjoy the work they do. And sometimes, it's hard for them to understand that a fulfilling job doesn't mean that it has to come with a big paycheck. That
Right.
it's more about the job, the people you work with, the impact of the work you have. It's more important than the paycheck. Paycheck is important, yes. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not the end point. Making
Right.
more money will not make you more happy. So, given your 8-year-long journey, and given where you are, we often try to understand, what is the thing that drives people. So, we often refer to it, as, what is your purpose? And, it takes time to find your purpose. You cannot discover it, when you are 18 years old or even 22. It just takes time.
Right.
Do you know what is your why? Why do you do what you do? What really kind of drives you in your life?
The people at Kroger, I mean, they say it in meetings and, you hear, oh, I love the people I work with, but Kroger, the employees are family. Like everybody, it's very engaging. If there's somebody needs help, whether it's work or personal, I mean, nobody is a stranger. Everybody's very accommodating. And I have never found another group of people than like the ones that I work with at Kroger. They're great.
So would you say that a big part of your why is the people, that you really enjoy the people you are part of?
Yes.
Is that the main thing that also keeps you engaged at work?
That and then the role itself, like the ever-changing innovation and the suppliers, they have their own energy as well. We work with Coke quite a bit, and the people that make the brand, I believe the people behind the brand are what make the brand. I mean, they all have different energy depending on what they're presenting. So I truly think everything is driven by who's behind it.
Yeah. So, okay. So, I think that my last question before my real last question is, so given where you are, how you got where you are, probably, you have some idea about how current students who, they lost the opportunity to graduate the way they expected to graduate, and now they fear the big uncertainty with the job market. What words of wisdoms would you share with them?
Words of wisdom for when they're job searching?
Yeah, they are, my capstone students are graduating next week. And they all like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do in this marketplace? Many companies stop hiring, all the interviews are on freeze, but there are still companies that hire. Like, one of my students, Haile, she has an interview this morning with PR marketing.
Oh, really?
So we know that there are companies that are hiring. Another student has an interview with PG in their beauty department. So we know that they're hiring. But like, is there anything that, you would, words of encouragement?
I would say it's easy to get discouraged. I felt that way, but if you have your mind set on something that you want as far as a job or what's going to fulfill you, it doesn't hurt to look and take those stepping stones. I think one thing that PL marketing said that they liked about my background was that I worked at Envoy and I had the financial background. So even though it might not be what you're looking for right now, it can still help you along the way.
So true. We actually, what I do in my capstone these days is that even though it's a marketing capstone, we integrated this career development element. So I work with a career coach who assists my students to complete something we called job selection and career path certification. It's a process that allows them to identify sort of their, look back, reflect on their jobs they had in the past, find the ones that had a big impact on them, the things they like about them, and basically, identify what they're good at, what they enjoyed in those jobs, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, what are the like non-negotiables for them when they start looking for a job. And at the end, they do identify like, action plan, the steps they can take to sort of make progress towards their dream job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard sometimes, to help them understand that, hey, the first job is not your endpoint. It is just a stepping stone. It's a learning opportunity. You will discover more about yourself. You discover what you like, what you don't like, and it's going to guide you in the next step. Right. But I know some students do struggle with this idea that, oh, I really wanted to get my dream job out of college. No, you will not. You won't get it.
It usually doesn't happen.
Exactly. It takes time. It takes time. Yeah. So I'm glad that you said this. That's good.
Yes. Well, I also started out as a nursing major, so I was all over the place.
Really?
Yeah.
That's how you started at NKU?
Yes. Yep.
How did you make that switch? How did you make the switch from nursing to College of Business and Marketing?
I took an anatomy. Well, so I was 18 and my mom is a nurse. She's been a nurse. She went to Good Sam. She works at Good Sam. And I was like, well, I'll just do what she did. I mean, I didn't really know. And then I took an anatomy class and I was like, no, this is not for me. So, but now it extended my career. So,
but at the same time, now you're working in the beverages and you are slowly gravitating towards natural and health. Mm-hmm. So you're back to being a nurse, but in the different sense. Yeah, so it's kind of funny how life works. So mm-hmm. There is still some health element in your job.
Yes.
Yeah. So okay. Anyway, so then, do you have any questions for me? Anything I can help with, or?
I'm curious to hear about the other people that you've talked to, like other students and what their path was. I know Mackenzie Woosty, she went to high school with me and she's in Australia now, I think.
Yeah, I'm in touch. It's kind of funny. I do like staying in touch with my students, so I do mm-hmm. check on them on a regular basis. So Mackenzie is one of them. Yeah, she came back for a while, but because of COVID-19, she flew back and now she's back in Australia. So honestly, I have not interviewed or talked to anyone mm-hmm. whose path would be straight line. No, everything is organic, and almost every single one of you, luckily, has this gift that you are open-minded. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this is something that NKU students have, just because the population we serve or attract, that some of you are the first generation of students who made it to the college for the first time, but you have this really resilient spirit. You just keep pushing. Mm-hmm. But some of those I interviewed, what we discovered is that, and it's not your case, you are actually on the other side. So basically, when some of our students get hired and they end up in the first job, after half a year, they come back to, let's say, to me and ask, "Hey, David, don't you know someone who is hiring here or there?" And I usually respond, "Why? You're in your job for half a year, so why do you want to move?" "I don't know. I just feel stuck. It doesn't feel like I'm making any progress." And then I ask them, well, have you talked to someone within your workplace? Have you talked to maybe someone in a position that you might actually enjoy doing? Have you reached to someone within the company? Have you found a mentor within the company that could help you navigate, your job? No. So don't you think that you may give it a try before you start looking elsewhere? So this is, like that people feel like that the opportunities should come to them without them doing anything, which wasn't your case. You, Danny, you were open, but some of our students are not. So it's, mm-hmm. sometimes I struggle, how do I make them aware that, when they get hired, that if nothing happens, they need to be proactive. They need to be proactive and talk to people, talk to their team colleagues, what their roles are, and trying to see, maybe a position that they would like to see themselves in the days to come, and start sort of networking with the people they already work with. So yeah, that's the biggest probably discovery I made that probably inhibits progress.
Yeah.
Because they think that the success will come their way, and it doesn't. You have to go after it.
That's one thing that Kroger's really good about is like you'll hear a lot of our senior leadership. They've started in stores and they've come up through the company, and that's one thing is like developing your employees. I mean, we'll hire externally too, but they do a good job of developing you. And then, you can find your mentor or, job shadow within the company, people in different departments. But you just have to ask. I mean, don't be afraid to ask.
Exactly. That's what we keep telling them. Just ask, be curious. And we do tell them now a lot when we coach them that guys, it's often more about the people you're going to be working with. So don't look at the name of the position, whether it sounds fancy or not. Make sure that whatever position you pick, you fit, that the people you are surrounded with are people you want to be part of, that you want to learn from, because those are the things that will either make you love the job or hate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It comes down to what you said, many, many minutes ago. It's about the people. Yeah. So that's good. Okay, Danni. So first of all, thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I really enjoyed learning about your journey. Now, before I let you go, I cannot help myself, and I have to ask the following question.